First Contact Protocol. The message arrived on a perfectly ordinary Tuesday morning, delivered by a distinctly non-ordinary courier wearing a crisp government uniform adorned with the newly minted United Earth Embassy insignia. Dr. Sarah Chen stared at the holographic notification floating above her desk, its soft blue glow illuminating her cluttered laboratory at MIT's Quantum Computing Research Center. Selected for Interstellar Cultural Exchange Program, Host Assignment, Priority Alpha. Sarah ran her fingers through her perpetually disheveled black hair, wondering if she'd finally fallen asleep at her workstation again. The last 3 months since humanity's first contact with the Etherian Collective had been a blur of rapid technological advances and global societal changes, but this was the first time she'd been personally pulled into the diplomatic circus. Dr. Chen. A voice from her doorway made her jump. I'm Agent Torres from the Bureau of Extraterrestrial Affairs. Your security clearance has been upgraded, effective immediately. Your Etherian guest arrives in 48 hours. Sarah blinked at the agent. There must be some mistake. I'm a quantum physicist, not a diplomat. Surely there are better qualified. You were specifically requested, Torres interrupted, sliding a data tablet across her desk. The Etherians were particularly impressed by your paper on quantum entanglement manipulation. They believe your research closely parallels some of their own developmental milestones. Sarah scrolled through the brief, her eyes widening. The Etherians, despite their overwhelming technological superiority, had implemented a validation officer program. These officers would live among humans, ostensibly to help guide Earth's integration into the broader galactic community. The unspoken truth, obvious to anyone who read between the lines, was that they were here to evaluate whether humanity could be trusted with advanced technology. Your guest's name is Kari, Torres continued. She's considered one of their most promising young scientists, though this is her first field assignment. The collective believes you two will be compatible. The next 48 hours passed in a whirlwind of preparation. Sarah's modest apartment was upgraded with Etherian-compatible environmental controls, and she received crash courses in everything from alien dietary requirements to diplomatic protocols. Yet nothing could have prepared her for the actual arrival. Kari materialized in Sarah's living room via what the Etherians called a gentle transit beam, designed to be less intimidating than their standard teleportation technology. The alien scientist stood slightly taller than Sarah, with iridescent skin that seemed to shift between pale blue and silver. Her most striking feature was her eyes, 3 of them, arranged in a triangular pattern, each one containing swirling patterns that resembled spiral galaxies. Hello, Kari said, her translation device rendering her words with a slight musical lilt. I am your assigned validation officer. Her hands, each with 4 long fingers, fidgeted with what appeared to be some sort of technical device. I hope my presence won't be too disruptive to your work. Sarah had expected many things from her first close encounter with an Etherian, cool superiority, perhaps, or clinical detachment. What she hadn't expected was nervousness. Kari's stance was almost apologetic, her third eye darting around the room as if searching for escape routes. Welcome to Earth, Sarah managed, fighting back her own anxiety. I'm Dr. Chen, but please, call me Sarah. Sarah, Kari repeated, as if testing the name. Your quantum equations are elegant. The way you conceptualized multidimensional entanglement without access to proper visualization technology was impressive. She paused, all 3 eyes focusing briefly on Sarah before quickly looking away. Though I suppose I shouldn't express personal opinions. It's not part of standard protocol. Sarah couldn't help but smile. Here was supposedly one of the most advanced beings in the galaxy, and she was acting like a nervous grad student at their first conference. I have about 1,000 questions about Etherian quantum mechanics, she admitted. But maybe we should start with something simpler. Would you like some tea? Kari's eyes widened slightly. Is that the Earth beverage derived from plant matter steeped in heated dihydrogen monoxide? I've studied it extensively in preparation for this assignment, but I've never actually. She trailed off, looking embarrassed. Yes, please. If it's not too much trouble. As Sarah busied herself in the kitchen, she could hear Kari moving around the living room, presumably taking readings with her various devices. The alien's footsteps were oddly light, almost musical. Your dwelling contains an unusually high concentration of books, Kari observed. Physical information storage seems inefficient, yet I find these objects oddly appealing. They're not just for information storage, Sarah explained, returning with 2 cups of green tea. Sometimes the experience of reading a physical book is part of the enjoyment. Kari accepted the cup with surprising grace, her long fingers wrapping carefully around the ceramic. Experience over efficiency, she mused. This is a very human concept. My superiors warned me about it, but I find it intriguing. She lifted the cup to what Sarah assumed was an olfactory sensor. The molecular composition is simple, yet the aroma produces complex neurological responses. Fascinating. As they sat together, human and alien, each trying to navigate this unprecedented situation, Sarah realized something crucial. Despite all their technological advantages, the Etherians were just as curious about humans as we were about them. Perhaps even more so. So, Sarah ventured, what exactly does a validation officer do? Kari's third eye swiveled toward her while the other 2 remained fixed on the tea. Officially, I am here to observe and report on human technological development and ensure safe integration of approved knowledge transfers. She hesitated, then added more quietly, unofficially, I believe I was chosen for this assignment because my unconventional perspectives align with human thought patterns more than my superiors are comfortable with. Sarah leaned forward, intrigued. Unconventional how? I question things, Kari admitted. The collective values efficiency and certainty. But I often wonder if there are aspects of existence that cannot be quantified by our instruments. Your species seems to understand this inherently. She gestured to the books. You seek knowledge not just for practical application, but for the joy of discovery itself. As the evening progressed, their conversation ranged from quantum mechanics to philosophy, from the practical challenges of interspecies cooperation to the simple pleasures of trying new things. Kari's initial nervousness gradually gave way to genuine enthusiasm, especially when Sarah explained concepts that the Etherians had apparently overlooked in their relentless pursuit of efficiency. Later that night, after Kari had retired to her specially prepared quarters, Sarah sat in her study, making notes about their interaction. On paper, with an actual pencil, much to Kari's earlier fascination. Something told her this assignment was going to be far more interesting than either their species had anticipated. What neither of them knew yet was that this unlikely partnership would soon be tested in ways that would challenge both human determination and Etherian protocol, forcing them to question everything they thought they knew about progress, civilization, and the true meaning of intelligence. Cultural collisions. 3 weeks into their cohabitation, Sarah found Kari hovering cross-legged in the middle of her living room at 3 a.m., surrounded by holographic displays showing Earth's entire technological history. The Etherian's 3 eyes were rapidly scanning through thousands of patents, scientific papers, and innovation timelines, her iridescent skin pulsing with patterns of light that Sarah had learned indicated intense concentration. Couldn't sleep? Sarah asked, padding into the kitchen for her own late-night research fuel, coffee. Sleep is inefficient, Kari responded absently, then caught herself. Though I understand it serves crucial biological functions for humans. I apologize if my presence disturbed your rest cycle. What's got you so fascinated that you're breaking protocol by accessing restricted historical databases? Sarah gestured at one particular hologram showing the development of the first transistor. All 3 of Kari's eyes widened slightly, her equivalent of a guilty start. I'm not supposed to share this, but something doesn't add up. She waved her 4-fingered hand through the displays, rearranging them. Look at your species' technological progression curve. It's unlike anything in our records. Sarah sipped her coffee, studying the data. Is that bad? It's impossible, Kari whispered. Most species follow predictable development patterns. Logical progressions from one discovery to the next. But humans. She pulled up more displays. You make intuitive leaps. You pursue multiple paths simultaneously, even contradictory ones. You deliberately follow inefficient routes out of pure curiosity. And that worries your superiors. Kari's skin rippled with darker patterns, concern, perhaps fear. The collective values order, predictability. We advance technology through careful iteration, each step thoroughly tested before proceeding. But humanity. She gestured at the historical timeline. You went from first powered flight to landing on your moon in just 66 years. That kind of acceleration scares them, Sarah finished. It should scare you, Kari said softly. Do you know what happened to the last species that developed this quickly? Before Sarah could answer, Kari's monitoring equipment chimed. The alien quickly dissolved the historical displays, replacing them with standard observation protocols. Moments later, Sarah's secure comm unit lit up with an incoming transmission from the Bureau of Extraterrestrial Affairs. Dr. Chen, Director Morrison's hologram flickered to life in their living room. We've detected unauthorized data access from your location. Care to explain? Sarah glanced at Kari, whose skin had paled to an almost translucent state. Late-night research session, Director. Kari was helping me understand some theoretical physics concepts. Any data access was purely academic. Morrison's eyes narrowed. Remember your clearance restrictions, Doctor. And Kari? The Etherian straightened. The collective has expressed concerns about your latest reports. They're sending a senior validation officer to review your assignment. After the transmission ended, Kari's normally fluid movements became rigid, mechanical. I've compromised my position. The collective doesn't tolerate deviation from established protocols. Hey, Sarah moved closer, resisting the urge to place a reassuring hand on Kari's shoulder. Physical contact was still a cultural minefield. You were doing your job. Studying humanity, right? My job is to validate humanity's readiness for advanced technology transfer. Not to. Kari's third eye fixed on Sarah while the other two studied the floor. Not to admire your species' achievements. Not to question the collective's methods. Over the next few days, Kari grew increasingly distant, focusing on formal observations and filing proper reports. But Sarah caught her late at night, still studying human history with an intensity that seemed almost desperate. Something about humanity's development had deeply unsettled the alien scientist. The arrival of Senior Validation Officer Venare brought matters to a head. Unlike Kari's fluid grace, Venare moved with precise, calculated efficiency. Her skin displayed no emotional patterns, and all three eyes remained locked in rigid formation. Your reports are troubling, Kari, Venare announced during their first meeting. You speak of human innovation as if it were admirable rather than dangerous. You've allowed their chaos to cloud your judgment. With respect, Kari's voice carried a harmonic Sarah had never heard before, something almost like defiance. Their chaos, as you call it, has produced results that challenge our fundamental assumptions about technological development. Precisely the problem. Venare turned to Sarah. Dr. Chen, your species' erratic progress poses a significant risk. You lack the foundational stability for advanced technology integration. Sarah felt her own streak of defiance rising. We've managed to achieve faster technological growth than any species in your records, despite starting with far less. Doesn't that suggest our methods have merit? It suggests, Venare's tone could have frozen nitrogen, that you require closer supervision. The collective has revised humanity's development timeline. All technology transfers will be delayed pending further evaluation. After Venare left, Kari's skin swirled with complex patterns Sarah had never seen before. There's something they're not telling us, the alien scientist said. The collective's response, it's too extreme for simple protocol violations. Sarah walked to her bookshelf and pulled down an old, worn copy of Asimov's Foundation. She handed it to Kari. Humans have been thinking about advanced civilizations and technological development for a long time. Maybe the answer's not in your historical databases. Kari took the book with surprising reverence. Physical information storage, she mused. Inefficient, yet. Her third eye focused on the pages while her other two met Sarah's gaze. Perhaps inefficiency has advantages they haven't considered. That night, as Sarah worked late in her lab, she received an encrypted message from Kari. The contents made her blood run cold, classified collective documents showing a pattern of intervention throughout the galaxy. Species after species, their development carefully controlled, their innovation stifled under the guise of protection. Humanity wasn't being protected. We were being contained. The question was, why? And more importantly, what were Sarah and Kari going to do about it? The hidden threat. Sarah spent the next week buried in quantum computations, trying to appear normal while secretly analyzing the classified data Kari had shared. The numbers told a chilling story. Every civilization the collective guided followed the same pattern: rapid initial growth, collective intervention, then centuries of carefully managed development. Like bonsai trees, pruned and shaped to grow exactly as desired. "Your coffee's getting cold," Kari observed one morning, her voice carrying the artificial calm she'd adopted since Venare's arrival. For the benefit of the collective's monitoring devices, they maintained a careful facade of professional distance. But Sarah had noticed Kari's third eye now tracked her constantly, a silent signal of their shared secret. "Look at this." Sarah pulled up a seemingly innocent simulation of quantum particle behavior. Hidden within the equations was her analysis of the collective's intervention patterns. The decay rate is consistent across all samples. Almost too consistent. Kari's skin flickered with understanding. Natural phenomena show more variation, she agreed, her own screens displaying routine cultural observations that masked her real work. Unless they're artificially constrained. Their conversation was interrupted by a priority alert from the Bureau. Director Morrison's hologram appeared, his expression grave. Dr. Chen, Kari, were detecting unusual energy signatures across multiple research facilities. The collective claims it's harmless background radiation from their observation equipment. Sarah's fingers tightened around her coffee mug. She'd been tracking those energy patterns for days. They corresponded perfectly with subtle degradation in quantum computational efficiency, not enough to raise immediate alarms, but sufficient to slow humanity's progress in key areas. "We're investigating the phenomena," Kari responded smoothly. But her skin patterns betrayed her agitation to Sarah's now practiced eye. After Morrison's hologram faded, Kari initiated their apartment's privacy protocols, ostensibly for routine maintenance. "They're implementing cognitive dampening fields," she whispered. "Subtle enough to avoid detection, targeted to affect specific types of creative thinking. Like what they did on Proxima b." Sarah referenced one of the classified files. That civilization went from inventing faster-than-light travel to spending 3 centuries debating minor improvements to existing technology. The collective believes they're protecting the galaxy. Kari's third eye darted nervously to their windows. Uncontrolled technological growth leads to chaos, war, destruction. At least, that's what we're taught. Sarah pulled out another book, this one on human history. "We've had our share of destruction," she admitted. "But we've also learned from it. Every setback pushed us to innovate, to find new solutions. That's what terrifies them." Kari's voice dropped even lower. "Humanity doesn't just survive catastrophe, you grow stronger from it. The collective's models can't predict your responses. You're the first species we've encountered that consistently defies statistical probability." A sudden surge in the apartment's power grid made them both jump. Venare materialized in their living room, her rigid posture somehow even more severe than usual. "Kari, your assignment is terminated," she announced without preamble. "The collective has determined that prolonged exposure to human unpredictability has compromised your objectivity." Sarah stepped forward. "You can't just." "We can, Dr. Chen," Venare interrupted. "And we must. Humanity's development must be properly managed, for the good of all species." "You mean controlled," Sarah challenged. "Suppressed. You don't understand what's at stake." For the first time, Venare's perfect composure cracked. "There are things in this galaxy, powers that must never be awakened. The last species that developed as quickly as humanity, they found something. Something that should have remained buried." Kari's skin pulsed with shock. "The lost civilization? The one that vanished overnight? That's why we regulate technological growth." "They didn't vanish," Venare's 3 eyes fixed on Sarah with something close to fear. "They evolved. Transformed into something beyond physical comprehension. The shock waves of their transcendence nearly tore the galaxy apart." "And you think that's our destiny?" Sarah asked. "Transcendence or destruction? Your species shows the same patterns. The same dangerous combination of creativity and resilience. We cannot allow." A sudden blackout cut Venare off mid-sentence. When emergency power restored seconds later, Kari was gone. "What have you done?" Venare demanded. Sarah smiled grimly. "Nothing. But it seems your perfect system didn't account for human ingenuity rubbing off on one of your own." Alarms began blaring across the city. The quantum dampening fields were failing, their carefully calibrated frequencies disrupted by what appeared to be random power fluctuations. But Sarah recognized the pattern in the chaos. Kari had learned more from studying humanity than anyone had realized. As Venare rushed to contain the situation, Sarah quickly accessed her quantum research database. Hidden within legitimate projects were the tools they'd need for what came next. The collective hadn't just awakened humanity's defiance, they'd given us a cause to rally around. And they were about to learn why betting against human determination was never a good idea. Human ingenuity. The next 48 hours transformed Earth's major cities into battlegrounds of subtle frequencies and quantum manipulations. The collective deployed their full array of suppression technology, while humans demonstrated exactly why they'd earned their reputation for unpredictability. Sarah stood in MIT's quantum computing lab, surrounded by a makeshift coalition of Earth's brightest minds, all connected via secure channels Kari had helped establish before her disappearance. Holographic displays showed the ongoing technological chess match playing out across the globe. "They're adapting to our countermeasures," Dr. Patel from India's Advanced Research Institute reported. "The dampening fields are becoming more sophisticated." "Let them adapt," Sarah replied, her fingers dancing across quantum interfaces. "Every adjustment they make tells us more about how their technology works." The collective had made one crucial mistake: they'd assumed humanity would try to fight their superior technology directly. Instead, Sarah and her colleagues were doing what humans did best: learning, improvising, and finding unexpected solutions. Update from the Tokyo team, Professor Yamamoto's hologram announced. "We've successfully replicated Kari's quantum communication frequency. We can track the collective's movements through their own network." Sarah allowed herself a small smile. Kari's final gift before vanishing, the theoretical framework for quantum entanglement communication, had given humanity a fighting chance. The collective's attempts at technological suppression had ironically forced Earth scientists to develop new technologies faster than ever. "Dr. Chen," Director Morrison's voice cut through the controlled chaos. "We're detecting massive energy buildups in orbit. The collective is escalating." Before Sarah could respond, every screen in the lab flickered. Kari's image appeared, her skin patterns showing a mixture of urgency and triumph. "Sarah, their orbital grid is powered by quantum-locked singularities. The configuration is nearly identical to your theoretical models from last year. Sarah's eyes widened. Her supposedly impossible theories about manipulating quantum singularities, the ones that had first caught the collective's attention, suddenly made perfect sense. They're not just suppressing us, she realized. They're afraid we'll surpass them. The collective built their entire civilization on controlled, predictable advancement, Kari explained. But humanity's quantum theories are already pushing beyond their understanding. Your creativity, your willingness to challenge fundamental assumptions. The transmission cut off as new dampening fields swept through the area. But Sarah was already moving, her mind racing with possibilities. Professor Yamamoto, remember that failed experiment from last month? The one that produced unexpected quantum resonance patterns? The results were completely unpredictable, he nodded. We couldn't reproduce, A slow smile spread across his face. Unpredictable is exactly what we need. Over the next few hours, humanity proved why it had terrified the collective in the first place. Teams across the globe began deliberately introducing controlled chaos into their quantum experiments. The results were erratic, impossible to predict, and completely immune to the collective suppression efforts. They're trying to impose order on quantum mechanics itself, Sarah explained to Morrison. But we're working with the chaos, using it instead of fighting it. Kari managed another brief transmission. The collective never considered this approach because it defies their fundamental principles. They're struggling to understand how you're achieving results through deliberate instability. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source, a group of teenage hackers in Nigeria who'd been experimenting with quantum gaming algorithms. They discovered that rapidly switching between multiple quantum states created interference patterns that actually amplified human cognitive function instead of suppressing it. It's like surfing, one young hacker explained. You don't fight the wave, you ride it. Sarah and her team quickly integrated this principle into their countermeasures. Instead of trying to block the collective's dampening fields, they created quantum resonance cascades that transformed the suppressive energy into cognitive enhancers. The collective's response was immediate and dramatic. Venare herself materialized in the lab, her usually perfect composure completely shattered. Stop this immediately. You don't understand the forces you're playing with. No, Sarah countered, you don't understand us. Humans don't advance by following safe, predictable paths. We learn by taking risks, by embracing the unknown. Your chaos will destroy everything the collective has built. Or it will force you to evolve. Kari's voice came from everywhere at once as she reappeared, her form somehow both physical and quantum entangled. I've studied humanity's history. Their greatest achievements came not from careful planning, but from daring to imagine impossible things. The lab's instruments were registering unprecedented levels of quantum activity. The collective suppression fields were collapsing worldwide, overwhelmed by humanity's chaotic but brilliant innovations. But more importantly, their rigid worldview was crumbling in the face of undeniable evidence that their way wasn't the only path to advancement. Director, Sarah addressed Morrison, I suggest you convene an emergency session with Earth's governments. The collective needs to understand that humanity won't accept their version of guided development. We're offering them a choice, work with us as equals, or watch us surpass them. As Venare struggled to process this ultimate defiance of collective authority, Kari moved to Sarah's side. The question they always feared has been answered, she said softly. What happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object? Sarah grinned. The immovable object learns how to dance. Breaking protocol. The quantum resonance chamber at the United Earth Embassy hummed with possibility as representatives from humanity and the collective gathered for what would either be a new beginning or the start of an interstellar crisis. The chamber itself was a testament to the past week's unprecedented developments, a hybrid of human creativity and Etherian technology, allowing both species to perceive multiple quantum states simultaneously. Sarah stood at the central podium, Kari beside her, their presence together symbolizing everything the collective had feared and everything humanity had proven possible. The chamber was filled with dignitaries from both civilizations, their quantum-enhanced perceptions allowing them to experience the historical moment across multiple probability streams. The fundamental laws of the universe, Sarah began, her voice carrying through both physical space and quantum resonance, are not a rigid framework to be controlled, but a canvas for exploration and growth. Venare, now speaking for the collective's High Council, maintained her composure but couldn't hide the quantum fluctuations in her energy signature. You propose we abandon millennia of careful progress for chaos? We propose synthesis, Kari interjected, her form shifting between physical and quantum states, a new ability born from her deep understanding of both cultures. The collective fears chaos because you see only its destructive potential. Humanity has shown us it can also be a source of creation. The evidence was undeniable. In just 1 week, the combination of human intuition and Etherian technology had produced advances that should have taken centuries. The quantum resonance chamber itself was proof, a technology the collective had deemed theoretically impossible. More importantly, Sarah continued, bringing up a holographic display of galaxy-wide quantum communications. We've detected signals. The lost civilization you feared? They didn't disappear. They've been trying to communicate, but your rigid protocols filtered out anything that didn't match your expected patterns. The chamber erupted in overlapping quantum frequencies as the implications hit home. The collective's greatest fear, that uncontrolled advancement would lead to destruction, had actually prevented them from reaching their full potential. We propose a new model, Kari announced, her skin patterns forming complex fractals that bridged order and chaos. Not control, not unfettered growth, but conscious evolution. The collective's stability combined with humanity's creativity. To demonstrate, Sarah and Kari initiated what they called a quantum dialogue, a real-time exchange of ideas through multiple quantum states simultaneously. The chamber filled with intersecting patterns of thought and possibility, showing how the two approaches could complement rather than conflict with each other. Impossible, one collective elder whispered, even as the evidence surrounded them. Impossible is humanity's starting point, Kari replied with what Sarah recognized as a distinctly human touch of humor. Everything else is just details to be worked out. The negotiations that followed would reshape galactic civilization. The collective agreed to lift all suppression measures, while humanity committed to sharing their unique perspectives on innovation and growth. But the real breakthrough came in an unexpected form. The lost civilization signals, Sarah explained, they're not just communications. They're invitations. They've discovered aspects of reality that transcend our current understanding, but they've been waiting for other species to evolve enough to share it safely. And they reached out to humans, Kari added, because your chaos, your beautiful, unpredictable chaos, created quantum resonance patterns similar to their own evolution. The implications were staggering. The collective's millennia of careful control hadn't been protecting the galaxy, it had been holding it back from a greater destiny. Humanity's rapid, chaotic development wasn't a danger to be contained, but a necessary catalyst for the next stage of galactic evolution. We stand at a crossroads, Sarah addressed the chamber. We can cling to the illusion of control, or we can embrace the uncertainty of growth. Earth extends an invitation to the collective, join us in exploring what lies beyond our current limitations. The quantum resonance chamber filled with overlapping possibilities as the two civilizations faced their moment of choice. And in that moment, something remarkable happened. The rigid patterns of collective thought began to shift, to flow, to dance with human chaos rather than resist it. Venare, who had once embodied the collective's fear of change, stepped forward. Perhaps, she said, her own form beginning to shift between states, it is time for the immovable object to learn new ways of being. The agreement they reached that day would become known as the Quantum Accord, a commitment to combine the best of both civilizations. The collective would share their technological wisdom, while humanity would teach them how to embrace uncertainty and innovation. Kari, now officially appointed as the first quantum dialogue facilitator, turned to Sarah after the historic signing. You humans have a saying about butterflies and hurricanes. Small changes leading to unprecedented results. Sarah smiled, watching the quantum patterns of two civilizations beginning to interweave. The butterfly effect. Chaos theory at its finest. Do you think we'll be ready? Kari asked, her third eye tracking the complex quantum signatures of the lost civilization's signals. For whatever lies beyond our current understanding. Ready? Sarah laughed. Probably not. That's what makes it exciting. The unknown isn't something to fear, it's something to explore. Together. As the quantum resonance chamber pulsed with the combined potential of ordered progress and chaotic innovation, the galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath in anticipation. Humanity had not just earned its place among the stars, it had helped reshape the very nature of galactic civilization. And somewhere, in quantum states beyond current comprehension, the lost civilization watched and welcomed the first steps toward a new age of exploration and discovery.